Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. S.K. Singh, and I'm delighted to welcome you today. We're about to dive into an interesting and important topic: generic versus branded drugs and really, what's inside them. Over the course of this presentation, we'll explore the differences, the similarities, and what you need to know to make informed choices. So, let's get started and uncover the facts together. Let's start by understanding that medicines are crucial tools in treating various diseases. Now, when we talk about medicines, they generally fall into two main categories: branded drugs and generic drugs. A common question that often comes up is, are generics really the same as the branded ones? That's a very important point to explore. Branded drugs are developed by pharmaceutical companies who invest a lot of time and resources into research and clinical trials before bringing a specific product to market under a brand name. These drugs are usually protected by patents, which means only the original manufacturer can sell them for a certain period, and that often makes them more expensive. On the other hand, generic drugs are essentially copies of the branded medicines. They come into the market after the patent expires. What's key here is that generics contain the same active pharmaceutical ingredient, what makes the medicine work, the same strength, and are in the same dosage form. They are designed to provide the same therapeutic effect as the branded versions. Regulatory authorities play a vital role in this process. They ensure that generics meet strict standards for quality, safety, and efficacy through bioequivalence studies. This means that even though the appearance might be different, generics are thoroughly tested to ensure they work just as well. So, at the end of the day, the main difference you'll notice is in the price and branding. The effectiveness and safety of generics are on par with branded medicines, which is a key point when considering options for treatment. This understanding helps us make informed decisions about the medicines we use. So, let's talk about what branded drugs are. These are medications that are developed by pharmaceutical companies, and they are marketed under a specific brand name that you might recognize. These drugs are usually protected by patents, which typically last about 20 years. This patent protection gives the company exclusive rights to sell the drug during that period. For example, Crossin is a brand name for paracetamol. Now, once the patent expires, other manufacturers can produce similar medicines called generic drugs. These are essentially copies of the original branded drug. They are sold under their chemical or generic names, like paracetamol, without the brand label. What's important to know is that generic drugs must meet the same high standards for quality, safety, and efficacy as the branded versions. They are just as effective and reliable. So, in summary, branded drugs are developed and protected by patents, while generic drugs come into the market after patent expiry, offering the same benefits but usually at a lower cost. Let's talk about some of the differences you might notice with generic drugs and what might change. First, the color, shape, and packaging can be different from the brand name drug. Sometimes the excipients, which are inactive ingredients, are different too. But it's important to remember that these differences do not impact how the drug works in your body or its therapeutic outcome. Now, what's really inside the drug is the same. Both the generic and the brand contain the same active pharmaceutical ingredient, or API, and the same strength and dosage form. They are also administered in the same way, whether that's by pill, injection, or another route. For example, if you're taking Augmentin, a branded medication, the generic version will contain the same active ingredients, amoxicillin and clavulanic acid, in the same amounts. When it comes to safety and quality, generics are held to the same high standards. They must comply with good manufacturing practices, or GMP, and undergo regular inspections by regulatory authorities. This ensures they meet the same safety profile as the branded drugs, giving you confidence in their quality and effectiveness. Let's talk about bioequivalence, which is really at the heart of what makes generics trustworthy. Essentially, generics must prove that they are bioequivalent to the original brand name drug. This means they need to demonstrate the same rate of absorption, so they get into the bloodstream just as quickly, and the same extent of absorption, meaning the overall amount absorbed is comparable. To ensure quality and safety, Regulatory standards accept a range of 80% to 125% for this equivalence, giving some flexibility but still maintaining strict safety criteria. Now, shifting gears a bit, cost comparison. Branded drugs tend to be more expensive, mainly because of their research and development costs and marketing expenses. In contrast, generics are much more affordable because they don't carry those hefty costs. For example, a branded antibiotic might cost around 250 rupees, while the generic version could be as low as 40 to 80 rupees. This significant cost difference is what makes generics a vital part of accessible healthcare, without compromising on effectiveness. So, understanding bioequivalence helps us appreciate how generics can be both safe and cost-effective options. Let's take a look at some common myths versus facts that often come up around this topic. It's important to distinguish between misconceptions and reality because it helps us make better, more informed decisions. First, many believe that these issues are rare or unlikely to affect them personally, but in reality, they're more common than people think. Next, some assume that solutions are complicated or too expensive, which can discourage action. However, the facts show that there are accessible and effective strategies available. By understanding the truth behind these myths, we can better address the challenges and move forward with confidence. Connecting these points to our overall theme, it's clear that awareness and accurate information are key to making meaningful progress. Let's talk about the important roles that both pharmacists and doctors play in medication management. First, prescribing rationally is essential. This means choosing the right medication, at the right dose, for the right patient. Encouraging generic substitution where appropriate can also help make treatments more affordable and accessible, but always with careful consideration. Education is another key aspect. It's vital that we ensure patients understand their medications, how to take them correctly, and what to expect. Now, there are certain situations where differences between medications can really matter, particularly with drugs that have a narrow therapeutic index. Think of thyroid medications or antiepileptics. They need precise dosing to be effective and safe. In these cases, patients should always consult their doctor before switching from one medication to another. This way, we can avoid unintended consequences and ensure their treatment remains safe and effective. Overall, the goal is to optimize medication use through collaboration, education, and careful consideration of each patient's unique needs. Let's take a closer look at the regulatory perspective. Both branded and generic drugs are carefully regulated by authorities such as the CDSCO in India, the US FDA, and the EMA in Europe. These agencies ensure that drugs on the market meet strict safety, efficacy, and quality standards. When it comes to approval requirements, branded drugs must go through comprehensive clinical trials to demonstrate safety and efficacy before they can be marketed. In contrast, generic drugs don't need to repeat those full clinical trials. Instead, they must prove bioequivalence, meaning they are absorbed and act in the same way as the branded versions. Quality standards are equally important. All drugs, whether branded or generic, must comply with Good Manufacturing Practices, or GMP. This ensures that the drugs meet consistent standards for purity, strength, and stability across the board. A key regulatory principle here is that generic drugs must be therapeutically equivalent to their branded counterparts. This means they should produce the same clinical effect and safety profile when used in the same way. Interchangeability is another critical point. Generic drugs can only be substituted for branded drugs after receiving regulatory approval, which confirms they will deliver the same clinical outcome and safety. Post-market surveillance plays a vital role too. Even after approval, regulators continuously monitor drugs for any adverse reactions or safety issues through pharmacovigilance programs, ensuring ongoing safety for patients. Overall, regulatory agencies work diligently to ensure that whether a drug is branded or generic, it maintains high standards of quality, safety, and efficacy. Let's take a moment to summarize the key differences between branded and generic medicines. Branded medicines are the original drugs developed by pharmaceutical companies. They are sold under a specific brand name and tend to be more expensive. This higher cost reflects the investments made in research, development, and marketing. On the other hand, generic medicines are introduced after the patent on the original drug expires. They are sold under their chemical names, and usually at a much lower price. Now, even though they look different in terms of branding and cost, both types of medicines contain the same active ingredients. They deliver the same strength and therapeutic effect. And importantly, they both must meet strict regulatory standards for quality, safety, and efficacy. The main difference really comes down to the cost and branding, not the clinical effectiveness. Understanding this helps us make informed choices and recognize that generics can be just as effective as their branded counterparts. In conclusion, it's important to understand that branded and generic medicines are essentially the same when it comes to their active ingredients, safety, quality, and how well they work. While branded drugs often come with higher price tags because of research and marketing expenses, generics offer a more affordable option that doesn't compromise on efficacy. Regulatory authorities play a critical role here. They rigorously evaluate and ensure that both types of medicines meet strict standards before they reach us. So, when you choose a generic medicine, you're making a choice that can significantly lower healthcare costs without sacrificing the clinical benefits you need. This understanding aligns with the overall theme of our presentation, emphasizing that safe, effective, and affordable medicines are accessible through proper regulation and informed choices. For further support, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you with any questions or additional information you might need. You can contact us through the provided channels, and we'll be happy to assist you. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. We truly appreciate your interest and engagement. Remember, we're committed to supporting your success beyond this presentation. So again, please feel free to get in touch if you need anything. Thank you.